Have you ever felt like you're constantly walking on eggshells around someone? Like a single misplaced word, an unpleasing glance, or even a moment of silence could trigger a disproportionate emotional outburst. Maybe you've caught yourself carefully choosing every phrase, measuring your tone of voice, adjusting your facial expressions, all to avoid provoking a reaction that leaves you with that tight feeling in your chest. It's as if you're navigating a minefield, where any misstep could lead to a crisis you don't fully understand but somehow ends up being your fault. If you're watching this video, it's very likely that this suffocating reality is part of your daily life. You might feel trapped in a cycle of constant tension, never knowing what to expect, with every interaction carrying an emotional weight that wears you down. I want you to pause for a moment and reflect. This feeling of always being on high alert, trying to predict the unpredictable, is exhausting, isn't it? More importantly, I want you to know that what you're feeling is real, it's valid, and you're not imagining things. This anguish isn't a flaw in you, nor is it a sign that you're too sensitive or overreacting. On the contrary, it could be a clear indicator that you're dealing with a deeply unbalanced relational dynamic, often manipulated by someone with narcissistic traits. Today, we're going to dive into this topic based on the teachings of the renowned psychologist Dr. Ramani Durvasula, one of the world's leading experts on narcissism. With over 2 decades of clinical experience, she has guided thousands of people worldwide in recognizing the signs of toxic relationships and finding paths to free themselves from these destructive dynamics. Dr. Ramani explains that this feeling of walking on eggshells you're experiencing isn't an accident or a coincidence. In fact, it's often the result of a deliberate control strategy used by people with narcissistic traits to maintain power in their interactions. According to her, this tactic is designed to keep you in a state of uncertainty, constantly destabilized, questioning your own perceptions, and even your sanity. Think for a moment. How many times have you replayed a conversation in your mind, trying to figure out what you said or did wrong to provoke such an intense reaction? How many times have you tried to explain yourself, justify your actions, or even apologize for something you know deep down wasn't your fault? This emotional confusion, this exhaustion that seems to drain your energy, isn't just a passing phase. It's a recurring pattern. It has a name: emotional manipulation. Dr. Ramani emphasizes that narcissistic individuals often create an environment, where you feel like you must constantly adapt, molding yourself to their expectations, because any slip-up could result in criticism, punitive silence, outbursts of anger, or sudden mood swings that leave you lost. If you're feeling confused, emotionally drained, or starting to doubt yourself, as if your reality is constantly being questioned, know that you're not alone. These are clear signs that you may be trapped in a toxic relational dynamic. The good news is that recognizing these patterns is the first step toward regaining your clarity and power. So stay with me, because we're going to explore together, based on Dr. Ramani's insights, how these dynamics work, why they affect you so much, and what's behind this controlling behavior. We'll unravel, step by step, the mechanisms that keep you stuck in this cycle of tension and insecurity, so you can start seeing your situation more clearly and make decisions that prioritize your well-being. Let's start by unraveling what narcissistic behavior really means, because it's essential to have clarity about what you're facing. We're not talking about someone who just loves taking selfies, boasts high self-esteem, or enjoys being the center of attention at a party. Pathological narcissism goes far beyond. That's a complex, deeply destructive dynamic that can leave lasting emotional scars on those around it. A person with narcissistic traits, Dr. Ramani Durvasula explains, exhibits very specific characteristics: an insatiable need for admiration, an inability or unwillingness to feel genuine empathy for others, and a grandiose view of themselves as if they were superior or special compared to everyone around them. But here's the detail that makes this dynamic so harmful. The inflated image the narcissist has of themselves is fragile and depends on others to sustain it. It's as if they need a constant human mirror to reflect their supposed greatness. And that's exactly where you come into the equation. You, with your empathy, your willingness to listen and support, become an essential pillar in upholding this facade often without even realizing it. In daily life, this narcissistic behavior manifests in very specific and often subtle ways at first, which can make it hard to identify the problem right away. One of the most common tools is emotional manipulation used as a weapon of control. A classic example is gaslighting, an insidious tactic that makes you doubt your own perception of reality. Phrases like, "you're being dramatic," "that never happened the way you're saying," or "you're imagining," things are thrown out casually but have a devastating impact. They make you question whether what you saw, heard, or felt actually happened, undermining your confidence in yourself. Over time, you may start to wonder if you're the one exaggerating or misinterpreting everything. Another common strategy is triangulation. Here, the narcissist pits other people against you, creating divisions or using comparisons to devalue you. Have you ever heard something like, "so-and-so would never treat me like that," or "you should be more like this person who knows how to act right"? These phrases aren't said by chance. Their goal is to make you feel inferior, insecure, as if you're never good enough. It's a form of manipulation that fuels competition and insecurity, keeping the narcissist in control of the dynamic. And then there's guilt, a central pillar of narcissistic behavior. Somehow, everything ends up being your responsibility. If the narcissistic person is angry, it's because you said something that provoked them. If the relationship is in crisis, it's because you're not trying hard enough to make it work. If they're unhappy, frustrated, or dissatisfied, the narrative will be that you failed as a partner, child, friend, or colleague. This blame shifting is so constant that you may start to internalize it, truly believing you're responsible for all their emotions and reactions. It's like carrying an invisible weight that never explains why it's there. If you're experiencing something like this, I want to reinforce something absolutely fundamental. The guilt is not yours. You are not responsible for another person's feelings, choices, or behaviors, no matter how much they try to convince you otherwise. You don't have the power to make someone act abusively. That's a choice the narcissistic person makes, consciously or not. Dr. Ramani emphasizes that victims of narcissists are often people with big hearts, full of empathy, who genuinely care about others' well-being. These qualities, which are so valuable and human, unfortunately become vulnerabilities in the hands of someone who has no qualms about exploiting them. The narcissist identifies your willingness to understand, forgive, and support, and uses it as a tool to keep you trapped in this dynamic of control and manipulation. Asterisk, think for a moment. How many times have you tried to fix a situation, even knowing you didn't do anything wrong? How many times have you caught yourself apologizing just to appease the other person, even though deep down you knew it wasn't your responsibility? These reactions are normal when you're dealing with a narcissist because they create an environment where you feel you must constantly adapt to avoid conflicts or emotional punishments. But recognizing these patterns is the first step to understanding what's really happening and starting to protect your mental health. Now, let's dive into the specific signs that may indicate you're being manipulated by someone with narcissistic traits. These behaviors can be so subtle that at first they go unnoticed, but once you start recognizing them, they become alarmingly familiar. Pay attention, because identifying these patterns is the first step to understanding the dynamic that's affecting you. First sign, you're too sensitive. This phrase is one of the favorite weapons in a narcissist's arsenal. Whenever you try to express discomfort, hurt, or even disagree with something they did, they turn the tables, saying you're too sensitive, dramatic, or overreacting. This tactic isn't just a criticism, it's a systematic invalidation of your feelings. The goal is to make you doubt the legitimacy of your emotions, as if feeling pain or frustration were a flaw in you. Instead of taking responsibility for their actions, the narcissistic person shifts the focus to you, suggesting the problem lies in your reaction, not in their behavior that caused it. Over time, you may start questioning yourself. Am I really overreacting? Am I the one who's wrong? This doubt is exactly what they want to create. Second sign, sudden mood swings that control the environment have. You ever noticed how a narcissist's mood seems to dictate the atmosphere of any environment, be it at home, work, or among friends? When they're in a good mood, everyone around them can breathe a sigh of relief, as if given permission to relax. But when they're angry, frustrated, or simply disinterested, the air becomes heavy, and everyone starts treading carefully, as if walking on eggshells. This emotional control of the environment isn't natural or healthy. In balanced relationships, people don't live as hostages to one person's emotional ups and downs. The narcissistic person, however, uses these mood swings as a tool of power, creating a climate of uncertainty where everyone feels compelled to adjust their behavior to keep them satisfied. Third sign, after everything I've done for you, this phrase is a classic form of emotional blackmail. The narcissistic person keeps a mental and sometimes verbal record of everything they've supposedly done for you, from small favors to more significant gestures. But these actions don't come from a place of genuine love or altruism. They're used as currency, a way to keep you in emotional debt. When you question something or try to set boundaries, they throw it in your face. After everything I've done for you, this is how you treat me. This tactic makes you feel guilty, as if you're being ungrateful, even when your complaints are legitimate. The result: you start hesitating to confront them, fearing accusations of disloyalty. Fourth sign, you can't have a different opinion. Why disagreeing with a narcissistic person? Even about something trivial like choosing a restaurant or an opinion about a movie. What should be a normal conversation often turns into a disproportionate conflict. The person believes they cannot tolerate being challenged or questioned. To avoid these outbursts, you may start giving in, agreeing with everything just to keep the peace. That's the goal. They are, consciously or not, training you to suppress your own voice and prioritize their wishes, undermining your independence. Fifth sign, you're crazy or that never happened. This is gaslighting in its most classic form. The narcissistic person denies facts, distorts what was said or done, and makes you question your own memory. For example, they might insist a conversation never happened, or that you misunderstood something they clearly said. Over time, this corrosive behavior leads you to doubt your own perception of reality, relying more and more on them to confirm what is true. This is one of the most dangerous signs because it erodes your confidence in yourself. Sixth sign, the silent treatment. When you disobey or do something that displeases the narcissistic person, they may resort to silence, coldness, or withdrawal of affection. This silent treatment is a form of emotional punishment that conditions you to avoid any behavior that might provoke it. You may feel compelled to do anything, apologize, give in, please, to regain their attention or affection. This manipulation is incredibly effective because it exploits your natural human desire for connection, keeping you trapped in a cycle of seeking approval. Seventh sign, no one will love you like I do. This phrase is a cruel attempt to undermine your self-esteem and convince you that you're dependent on them. The narcissistic person may suggest you're lucky to have them, that no one else would put up with you, or that you'll never find someone who loves you as much. Emotional isolation makes you believe you don't deserve or won't find anything better, even if the relationship is deeply harmful. It's a tactic to keep you trapped, afraid to seek something different. Behind all these behaviors lies a desperate need for control. The narcissistic person cannot stand feeling vulnerable or questioned, so they do everything to maintain a position of superiority and power. In this context, you're not seen as an independent person with your own feelings, needs, and rights, but as an extension of them. Someone who exists to meet their emotional demands. These signs, though they may seem isolated at the moment, form a clear pattern of manipulation that keeps you in a constant state of insecurity and submission. Now, Let's talk about how living with a narcissistic person deeply affects you on an emotional, mental, and even physical level. If you're in a relationship, be it romantic, familial, professional, or friendly with someone who exhibits narcissistic traits, it's very likely that you're experiencing a range of emotional symptoms that may leave you confused, overwhelmed, and even questioning who you are. These impacts don't arise by chance. They're the direct result of a toxic dynamic that, according to Dr. Ramani Durvasula, is designed to keep you destabilized and under control. Let's explore these effects carefully, because recognizing them is essential to understanding what's happening to you. First, guilt. You probably live with a constant weight of guilt. You may feel like you're never good enough, as if somehow it's your responsibility to keep the narcissistic person happy, avoid conflicts, or fix the relationship. You might blame yourself for arguments, even when they stem from something you didn't cause, or for failing to meet their often unrealistic expectations. This guilt is so intense that it can drive you to tirelessly try to improve the situation, taking on responsibilities that aren't yours. For example, you might find yourself apologizing repeatedly, even knowing you did nothing wrong, just to appease the other person. This sense of guilt is fueled by the narcissistic person's emotional manipulation, which projects their flaws onto you to avoid facing their own responsibilities. Second, confusion. If you're dealing with a narcissistic person, it's common to feel completely lost, as if you're trapped in a mental fog. You may start questioning what's real and what isn't because your memories are constantly challenged, and your feelings are invalidated. Perhaps you've heard phrases like, "you're imagining things," or "that never happened," even. When you're certain of what you saw or heard, Dr. Ramani explains that this is a classic gaslighting tactic, a form of psychological manipulation that goes beyond distorting a specific memory. The goal is to make you doubt your ability to perceive reality as a whole, undermining your confidence in yourself. Over time, this confusion can be so intense that you start wondering if you're going crazy, which is exactly what the narcissistic person wants, as it makes you more dependent on them to define what's true. Third, anxiety. Living with a narcissistic person often means being in a constant state of alertness, as if you're walking through an emotional minefield. You never know when a word, gesture, or even silence might trigger an unpredictable reaction. This ongoing tension keeps your nervous system in survival mode, always ready for the next conflict. This chronic anxiety isn't just mental, it can manifest in real physical symptoms such as frequent headaches, digestive issues, trouble sleeping, or even a constant feeling of tightness in your chest. This emotional and physical exhaustion is a clear sign that your body is reacting to an emotionally unsustainable environment. Fourth, low self-esteem. Over time, the constant criticism, unfair comparisons, and repeated invalidations begin to erode your self-esteem. You may internalize the messages the narcissistic person sends that you're inadequate, problematic, hard to love, or that you never do anything right. This erosion is gradual, almost imperceptible at first, but devastating in the long run. You might have started questioning whether you truly deserve to be treated with respect, or if you're capable of being loved for who you are. This loss of self-confidence is one of the deepest impacts of a narcissistic relationship because it makes you feel the problem lies with you, when, in reality, it's the manipulation you're enduring. Fifth, isolation. Often, living with a narcissistic person leads to distancing yourself from friends, family, or other important people in your life. This can happen because they actively discourage these relationships, perhaps criticizing your friends, or demanding all your time more because you, without realizing it, start isolating yourself out of shame or fear of explaining your situation. This isolation makes you more vulnerable, as it leaves you with less emotional support and more dependent on the person who, ironically, is hurting you. You may feel like you have no one to turn to, reinforcing the sense of being trapped. Sixth, Hypervigilance, you've probably become an expert at monitoring the narcissistic person's mood, as if your emotional survival depended on it. You analyze every micro-expression, every change in tone of voice, every prolonged silence, trying to predict how they'll react. You might constantly adjust your behavior, choosing words carefully, avoiding certain topics, or even suppressing your own emotions to avoid conflicts or emotional punishments. This hypervigilance is exhausting because it consumes an enormous amount of mental and emotional energy, leaving little room for you to care for yourself or enjoy life. It's crucial to understand that these symptoms, guilt, confusion, anxiety, low self-esteem, isolation, and hypervigilance, are not signs of weakness or that something is wrong with you. On the contrary, they're natural responses to a deeply abnormal and toxic situation. As Dr. Ramani often highlights, living with a narcissistic person is like being in a relationship with someone who has an untreated mental disorder. You don't have the power to cure them. You can't love them enough to change their behavior, and above all, it's not your responsibility to manage their emotions or actions. These impacts you're feeling are the result of an emotionally abusive environment, and recognizing them is the first step toward regaining your clarity and protecting your well-being. Now that you understand what's happening, let's talk about what you can do. First, I want you to take a deep breath and understand that recognizing the situation is already a huge step. Many people go years, even decades, without being able to name what they're experiencing. First step, accept that you can't change them. This is perhaps the hardest truth to accept. You can't love enough, be perfect enough, or sacrifice enough to transform a narcissistic person. Change can only come from them. And they need to recognize they have a problem, something that rarely happens with narcissists. Second step, start setting emotional boundaries. This doesn't necessarily mean cutting contact immediately. May not be possible or safe, but it means stopping taking responsibility for their emotions. When they explode, you don't need to rush to calm them down. When they blame you, you don't need to accept the guilt. Third step, reconnect with your own reality. Start trusting your perceptions again. If something hurt you, it hurt. If something felt wrong, it probably was. Consider keeping a journal where you write down incidents. This helps combat gaslighting. Fourth step, seek professional support. A therapist specializing in relational trauma can be crucial for your recovery. They can help you process what you've been through, rebuild your self-esteem, develop strategies to cope with this situation. Fifth step, reconnect with your support network. If you've distanced yourself from friends and family, consider reestablishing those connections. You need people who see you for who you truly are, not as the narcissistic person portrays you. Sixth step, take care of your physical and mental health. The stress of living with a narcissistic person affects your entire body. Exercise, eat well, sleep properly. Practice relaxation techniques like meditation or deep breathing. Seventh step, educate yourself about narcissism. The more you understand about this disorder, the less power it will have over you. Read books, watch videos, join support groups. Knowledge is power. It's important to understand that leaving a relationship with a narcissistic person is a process, not a single event. Be patient with yourself. You may have setbacks, moments of doubt, or the urge to go back. That's normal and doesn't mean you're weak. Dr. Ramani always emphasizes that recovery from narcissistic abuse is possible, but it takes time. You're not just recovering from the relationship, but also from the systematic manipulation of your perception of reality. Remember, you're not alone on this journey. Millions of people around the world have gone through this and managed to break free. You can too. You deserve healthy relationships based on mutual respect and genuine love. The problem isn't you. It never was you. You are worthy of love, respect, and kindness. Okay? And there is a full, happy life after a narcissistic relationship. If this video resonated with you, if you recognized yourself in any of the signs I mentioned. Or if you've finally been able to name what you've been experiencing, you're not alone. Millions of people around the world go through relationships with narcissists. And the first step toward freedom is always recognition. I want you to know that seeking help isn't a sign of weakness, it's an act of courage. Recognizing that you're in a toxic situation and deciding to do something about it is one of the bravest things you can do. If this content was helpful to you, subscribe to the channel. Here, you'll find more videos about toxic relationships, narcissism, and strategies for building healthy relationships. Turn on notifications so you don't miss any new content. And tell me in the comments, if you've ever experienced something like this, if you've been able to identify some of these signs in your life, your story might help others going through the same situation. Sometimes, reading someone else's experience who's been through something similar is what gives someone the courage to seek help. Share this video with people if you know who might be going through similar situations. Sometimes a person can't see what's happening on their own, and a friend or family member can be the bridge too. Recognition and seeking help. It's not easy to admit we're in a toxic relationship. Our culture often romanticizes suffering in love, as if loving meant enduring pain. But it doesn't. True love helps you grow, gives you security, and allows you to be yourself. If you're always walking on eggshells, that's not love, it's control. You deserve relationships where you can be authentic, where your feelings are validated, where you don't have to fear expressing your opinions. You deserve peace, not constant war. You deserve to be seen, heard, and respected. The journey to healing may be long, but every step brings you closer to a fuller, more authentic life. And remember, you're stronger than you think. If you've survived a narcissistic relationship, you can survive anything. Thank you so much for watching this far. Take care of yourself, be kind to yourself, and remember, you're not alone. Until the next video.